In Serbia, a handshake is friendly. However, it's the piece of paper that protects you. Whether you're signing a lease agreement, hiring employees, starting a business, a properly drafted agreement is what's going to protect you and your business. And today we're going to look at a number of contracts. We're going to look at the types of contracts every foreigner should know about. We're going to look at what makes them legal under the Serbian law. And we're also going to look at common mistakes that foreigners experience when moving to Serbia. Now, one of the things that I've noticed since we've opened up our business here is that more and more clients, regardless if they're someone who is a citizen here and obtained citizenship by descent, citizenship by merit, or they are a complete foreigner here in Serbia, they are getting more and more into legal contracts, and they're not understanding how they are covered, how they work here in Serbia. And so we have had a lot of work in that regards with our legal team here. And first and foremost, I'd like to just state that none of this is legal advice. And so if you are looking for legal advice for your own specific scenario, that you reach out to us so that we can put you in contact with our legal team to revise your personal or your business ideas that you have and how we can protect you and your clients in the best regard. So let's get into the first one, and that's the legal foundations of contracts in Serbia. Now, contracts in Serbia are governed by the law on obligations. And so to be valid, there needs to be an offer and acceptance. And some of this might be common knowledge that you already have from the country that you're coming in from. So you might be like, well, this is just common sense, but for some individuals, this is not common sense, especially as we get into some of the more detailed contracts here, or agreements, should I say. They also must define the subject matter at hand. There must be considerations of price, services, and obligations, and there must be intention to create a legal relation with the two parties, or it could be three parties, or whatever it might be. Now, one of the things that I highly recommend for all our foreign clients who are not very well versed or able to read Serbian contracts is that they are done in bilingual contracts. And I will state why later, because even though that all contracts here in Serbia must be in Serbian, we've had some clients who decided to go out on their own and sign contracts and agreements on their own and not have them revised, and found out later that they got hosed essentially. And that's something that we don't want them to incur. There are some ways that you can fix these things after the fact, and I'll get into that shortly. But getting them done bilingually is something that I highly recommend to all our clients here. Now, one of the other things that we need to look at is how do they become a legal document here. Now, if you're looking at a lease agreement, if you're looking at real estate contracts, for the most part, they should be notarized at a notary to become a legal document here. And so we need to ensure that whatever you're doing at a notary, that you know, because once it becomes a legal document and your signature is on those documents, you are bound by those terms if you understand or if you do not understand. If you do not understand because it is in a foreign language, there are ways around that, but it's a very hairy situation. And that's why we recommend that all our clients take the initial precautions before it gets into something a lot more involved from a legal standpoint. Now, When it comes to business agreements, there are some core business agreements we need to look at. Business cooperation agreements. This is going to be joint projects, profit sharing, responsibilities, and terminations when you are getting into a business agreement. And so avoid missing termination clauses. Otherwise, the agreement can be default or indefinite duration. One of the things that is by law here in Serbia, if you do not have a defined set of how long someone's going to be working with you or working on a project, it is automatically defaulted to indefinite. And so getting rid of that individual down the road may be a lot more difficult than if you had a defined set terms with that individual. Now, some common agreements are for freelancers or consultants. There should be a outlined scope, deliverables, and as well as payment terms and deadlines when you are working with freelancers or consultants. And that's something that we do with our contracts with our clients. First and foremost, all our contracts with us here is done in English, so that there are no miscommunications per se. We set out our goals as well. We set out our payment structures, and so that everybody's on the same page, and so that there are no gray areas when it comes to our services. Some of the other things you need to look at is IT and software developments contracts. So clearly state the IP ownership. One of the things that you have to understand that here in Serbia, if you have some sort of intellectual property, the intellectual property automatically, by law here in Serbia, falls under the creator's intellectual property unless it's transferred in writing. So that's something that we need to also understand. We recently brought in a client who is setting up a logistics company here, and at the same time he's setting up an application and wants to put it out to market here in Serbia. So one of his questions is that I'm setting up a logistics company here, but I'm also setting up a application for other logistic companies. Whose IP is that? And so one of the things that he felt comfort in is that it automatically falls under his IP, and that he's the ownership unless it's actually transferred in writing. And so that's going to be coming out in the spring for our client. He said that he's about 80% of the way when it comes to that. An added protection and provisions are Serbian's GDPR aligned laws, so you have to also understand that. Now, the other one is we're seeing a lot of clients getting into employment and consultancy agreements. We're having a lot of foreign clients coming in here, setting up shop and looking to employ people, regardless if it's a business, in restaurant, if it's a IT company. There's so many businesses out there that need either consultants or employees. So we need to look at what is the labor laws here, what are the HR laws, what kind of non-compete clauses can you have here in Serbia, what can you have as non-poaching clauses here in Serbia. And so again, everything must be written and specified. The position, the salaries here are always done in RSD, even though a lot of businesses like to price their services or their products in euros. The end result is going to be in RSD. And so if you're looking to move to Serbia, that's something you have to keep top of mind. You also have to understand that you have to state the working hours, the probation period, and termination notices as well. Now, all these contracts obviously need to be signed before the work starts, or of course you as an employer could risk fines, and that's something that I obviously don't wish on any of our clients. And we have to distinguish between employment contracts and service contracts as well. So some people like to disguise employment as a service contract when they're actually employees. And that's something they do just so that they don't have to pay those extra taxes when it comes to pension, unemployment, healthcare, so on and so forth. Now, the next one, and this is where I'm going to bring up one of our clients here, is real estate and lease agreements. So lease agreements must include the address, rent, a deposit that you're putting in, duration, and termination terms. Long-term leases, they can be registered in the real estate cadastre for added protection. That's typically done more so for our commercial clients so that they are free and clear or have that extra added layer of protection. And then purchase agreements, like I mentioned just a second ago, they must be notarized in Serbian. The buyers must pass through the Serbian banks when you're purchasing property, and the taxes are typically 2.5 in real estate transfer taxes or 10% VAT on new builds. Now, we had two different clients that are in two different scenarios. One was in a rental contract, and what they did was they're going to sign a rental contract and they sent it over to us just to verify that everything's kosher, and so that if they sign it, that they're not going to be getting into hot water. And as our legal team was reviewing it, one of the clauses in the rental agreement was that if they were late on rent by 1 day, so the rent was due on the first of every month, and if they paid it on the second, that they would owe an extra 50% of rent on top of the month's rent, which is completely not in the best intentions for the tenant themselves. And so we contacted the landlord, advised them that's what's going on, and they refused to withdraw that clause. Simply, they said, we had issues with people not paying on the first, and we want our money on the first, and that is our rules. If they don't like it, they don't have to take the apartment. And so that's what we advised our clients and said, listen, if you don't want it to deal with this contract and this clause that's in the contract, by all means, go find another one. The other client was someone who just recently went to one of the real estate agencies here. And for those that have been watching my videos here, I do not hold back on telling you that the real estate agencies here are absolutely brutal, to say the least, when it comes to customer service and looking out for what's best for their clients. And so our client went out and purchased a apartment, and he didn't have it in dual language, so he didn't have it in Serbian and in English, and it was only in Serbian. And he went to the notary, he signed everything, and then in the end, he's like, how much do I owe? Where is the actual amount of money that I put in on the deposit? And then when he went to pick up his keys, the investor said, hey, listen, you owe another 400 or 500 euros in bank fees because my bank charged me. And so he was confused. Was that in the agreement or was it not in the agreement? I said, did you not have this in both languages? He says, no, we did not have it in both languages. I said, did you have a translator with you there at the time of signing? He says, no, I did not have that either. And so he ended up signing a contract that he didn't even understand in order to purchase a property. And some of these not some of these, but this particular real estate agency here never thought in the best interest of the client to perhaps have it in dual languages, perhaps have a court interpreter there so that he understands what he's signing. Which brings me to one of the points of the language and enforceability of contracts. So if the contracts always have to be written in Serbian and formally valid to be formally valid here in Serbia. But this even falls for people that do not speak Serbian here. It still has to be in Serbian. And so the enforceability can be challenged if the signer can prove that they didn't understand what they were agreeing to. But now that takes you into another process of actually going to courts and going before a judge, hiring an attorney, and proving that you did not know what you're signing. And now, of course, if you're spending hundreds of thousands of euros in essence, it might be worth hiring a lawyer. But in order to bypass all that, make sure that both the agreements that you're signing are in both languages. Ensure that you have a court interpreter there as well so that they can tell you what you're signing, and maybe even bring in your own legal counsel, which we have done for our clients, so that the legal counsel is looking for the best interest of you and not for themselves. So the courts could usually uphold signatures unless deception or misunderstanding is proven, and so you don't want to risk that. The foreigner must prove lack of informed consent, which could be another process as well. And so you don't want to deal with any of that. So ensure that you cover your own rear and reach out to people that have your best interest at heart, such as us here at Relocation Serbia. Now, the next one you need to look at is NDAs. Define the scope, duration, and penalties when it comes to that. You have to look at also non-compete clauses, ensure that they're valid only if time limited and compensated is employment contracts. So if you have a non-compete clause and someone wants to go and leave your business and start the same business somewhere else and they signed one, you now are responsible for paying them a certain amount of money so that they can't run that business unless they go and find a regular job. Then you don't have to worry about that. But that's something we can explain to you when you end up coming to our office in that sense. And so how do we help you? We help you prepare customized bilingual contracts that are compliant in Serbian and international standards. We handle the large details, drafting, translations, notarizations, and registrations of your agreements and contracts. And we offer end-to-end protection for all our clients in that sense. So having a strong contract isn't just a formality. It's protection for you on your personal side and for your business. And if you have a good buttoned up contract, that is a way that everybody can sleep at night and not have to worry about it on a day-to-day.